friends. Welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 94. I'm Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and today is Friday, October 13th, which is not unlucky. I am going to warn you in advance that the Variety Show portion is going to be about the Great British Sampler Weekend that I attended. Well, it was 2 weekends ago is when the actual sampler weekend was, and our trip to England, the sightseeing that Leslie and I did in England following the sampler weekend. So that's what it's going to be about. I'll show some pictures. I may lump pictures in at the end. I'm not sure how I'll do that. And I think this is going to be a longer than average video, so buckle in. I want to welcome my viewers. Many of you are returning viewers, and some of you may be new that I met at the weekend, or they heard that I have a Flosstube or whatever. I don't know what nonsense might have happened there. But anyway, I welcome you. I particularly was so pleased to meet Mama Loves You GB, Michelle, and Stacy 911 Stitcher, who have excellent floss tubes here on YouTube. I felt like I was meeting celebrities. That was just so fun to have the chance to meet you both. And I also met Catherine, who is a viewer, which I don't think Catherine has ever commented on a video, but I was so glad to meet you, Catherine. I felt like, wow, somebody recognized me. That was amazing. So I appreciate you speaking up and coming over to talk with me. That was very fun. So I wanted to cover a couple of administrative things first before I get into it. First of all is I've learned from one or two of you that ads come in the middle of my videos up to maybe every 5 minutes. And I am so sorry about that. I've tried to look into how to make that stop. And I believe that I can't control ads at all in my videos until I have 1,000 subscribers. And there may also be some number of hours of viewing in the past certain time frame that has to happen. And that is a threshold, I think, that YouTube has set for creators to monetize their channels. Now, I am not interested in getting any money from YouTube for this. I'm doing this for my own benefit, for the fun of it, for random, intangible things, pleasures that it gives me to make these videos. I have no interest in getting any money from it. So it's kind of annoying to me that YouTube is putting ads in the middle of my videos so that the 150 or so of you who view these have to put up with that. So what's the solution? Well, I'm sorry to say that I have no answer for that. The only solution I can think of is that if I get 1,000 subscribers, and right now I have around 360, say. So that seems insurmountable. That would be astonishing for me to ever have 1,000 subscribers. So I think that we're just going to have to deal with the ads. I don't actually watch my videos after I've posted them, usually. Occasionally I have gone back to watch because I wonder, what did I say about that topic or project? So I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. Sorry. Another administrative thing is, well, I guess it's just that in 2 weeks, I don't think I'll be making a video because I think I'll be away for the weekend. That's my guess. Okay, but anyway, I missed 2 Fridays because of the trip. Is that true? Yes, that's true. So it's been 3 weeks, I think, since I've made a video. I hope I remember how to do it. So the way this is going to work today, I think, is that I'm going to cover my stitching just as normal, and then I'm going to talk about the Great British Sampler Weekend event and our trip to England. So let's talk about stitching first. So one of the weekends that I was gone was the first weekend of the month, which is the weekend that I work on a Blackbird project, and I've been working on this one, Mighty Acorn, which is from the book Winds of Autumn. And when I remember to post anything about this, which I don't always remember, it goes with the hashtag BBD Weekend Sal, which was something started by Brenda and Laura maybe 2 years ago. And I think most people aren't doing this anymore. It's fallen off, but I'm still doing it because I love Blackbird and it's a way to sort of organize myself. So here is what I have. I have the whole border, the skeleton of the border done. This time I worked a little more on the tree trunk and I put in some acorns maybe, and I started on the house because, of course, the house is a lot of solid stitching. So it was fun to get back to that. I did not do it. I did it this past week because I'd missed the weekend and I wanted to keep going on that. So that's been fun. Oh, this I'm going to set aside because it should be covered last. When I went to the Great British Sampler Weekend, I took just this one project, Mathilde, which was from the Letters from Europe box, Hands Across the Sea. And I did stitch on it, I would say a fair amount, actually, down there in the blue section. And I also did a little bit since I've been home, I believe. So you can see there's more of those border band things completed. I believe I counted 6 more to do. So it is my absolute goal to finish this soon. Not probably before my next video, not probably before next week, but soon. So that is a definite goal. I show this, I work on this almost every week just because it's very easy. This is Sampler 193 by 2x2 Stitch Art, a Ukrainian designer that I discovered a couple of years ago when I went looking for ways to make some tangible effort of support for Ukraine. And here it is again. I've been working up in this corner. I'm about 58% done. I like to work on this when either I'm tired, which I was this past week for a couple of reasons, jet lag being one of them, or when I have something that's kind of distracting going on, because it's much easier to work with one color and with much more solid stitching. So I love this. And this is a white 16 count Aida, and the color is DMC 777. I also worked on Winter Rose Manor since I last showed this to you. The house is done. I think it was done the last time I showed it. And I've started working on the basket. I haven't worked much on this, I confess, but you can begin to see that big basket that's on top of the house starting. I enjoy it. I was just working on it this morning and I had to make myself stop so that I could make the video. So that is most of what I've been stitching on since I last made a video. And I do have plans and goals and desires of other things. I mentioned before, last time, I think that I wanted to start a Modern Folk embroidery chart that I have and some Christmas stitching, which this coming weekend is the 3rd weekend of the month. That is, what is today? The 13th. Not this weekend, but next weekend is the 3rd weekend of the month, which I have set aside as Christmas-themed stitching. And I have a couple of things, so I'll probably pull all that together and get it started next weekend, because there's only 2 more 3rd weekends of the month, aren't there? Wow. Gonna have to do Christmas stitching in addition to that, I think. But let's talk about the Great British Sampler Weekend. So this is the first time I've ever attended a retreat, a cross-stitch retreat, and it is, you know, I've heard about them on Flosstube. Leslie had been to one. She went to the Sampler Symposium at the Attic in January. So it isn't that I was completely ignorant of what they are, but I was not prepared for how amazing It really was. Cindy and I have been to the quilt show dozens of times. And I will say that the quilt show and us taking a class there is not like the cross-stitch retreat. So in the quilt show, we go together, we have a great time, we look forward to it. We're already planning the next one we go to, which is the end of February. But we don't tend to meet people. It's not a getting to know other people kind of event very much. We have a good time together more than meeting other quilters. It's not to say that we never meet anybody or have a fun conversation with someone we are just first becoming acquainted with, but that isn't the real goal of it. That isn't the point. But at the cross-stitch retreat, it definitely is. Here we are sitting at a table with people that we've never met before. I mean, Leslie and I knew each other, and at our table, I think that Carol, number 1, and Teresa and Carol, number 2, all knew each other. Sam possibly knew those ladies. Samantha, Sam, they were there, and next to us was Roxy and Leslie and Emily and Roxy. There were 9 of us all together. Darn it. I shouldn't have even started if I wasn't going to remember everybody's name. Oh, the sisters, Patrice and Penny. No, Peggy. Patrice and Peggy. So that was interesting because Patrice and Peggy have siblings whose names all start with P. And I said to Peggy, so is Peggy short for Margaret? And she said, no, Margaret doesn't start with P. My mother named me Peggy because it starts with P. So yes, Patrice and Peggy were sisters from the U.S. and Roxy from the U.S. and Leslie and I from the U.S. And then the other 4 ladies were from the U.K., 3 of them from England, and Sam lives in Wales. And I mean, it was just exactly the thing that I hoped for, was to meet some people from other parts of the world and other parts of our country. So it was very fun to meet them. And because we were together at that table the whole weekend, we had quite a bit of chit-chat and conversation. And we're talking about having a Zoom stitching time together at some point, which I'm going to organize sometime, maybe before the end of the year. I mean, time is getting short though. But anyway, we had a great time getting to know them, and there was a couple of table games which were fun to sort of get us all working together, and it was great. I have a group picture, I think, of all of us, which I'll stick in. I think at this point, if you haven't already seen pictures stuck in, it's because I'm going to put them in at the end. So we arrived at the retreat, we found our table space, and then we went to get our project, which is in a fish and chips box. And along with it was a bottle of pop, fish and chips and vinegar and pop. And the pop bottle is full of walnut shells, crushed walnut shells. And in the fish and chips box, it was wrapped in newspaper, which is traditional, and there was a description of the tradition of fish and chips in England, and that was very interesting. And this is a real fish and chips box. Now, it's funny because I wasn't going to bring it home because it's, it takes up space, and believe me, space was a premium on my return. But Leslie had taken hers apart and flattened it, and I thought, oh, I can do that. So I did flatten it and brought it home. Now what? I don't know. I might not keep it because why? So anyway, our project was in there, and the project included some sort of special gift type things. Yeah, we had a name tag. Here is a brooch, scissors that has a pin on the back. You can pin it to your clothing, which I probably won't do. A box, a little metal sliding lid box from Hobby House Needleworks, which has a magnet in the bottom, and eyeglass cleaner, which has a sampler on it, tape measure. Oh yes, there was a charm on the name tag. It says 2023. And Nicola said we're gonna, keep doing these. There'll be a charm every year, and in 10 years, whoever comes to the 10th one and has all 10 charms will get a prize. So there's a goal. Counting pins made by Minnie McBean. They're beautiful. I mean, they're called counting pins. Can someone explain to me how to use them? They're very thick, so they would be kind of hard to pierce fine count linen. I used them in counting over on something the other day. Oh, it was Mathilde, which I'm doing on 20 count Aida, and I felt like, wow, these are kind of thick to go through the holes. So anyway, they are very pretty. Red and green, which is significant because we were given this project, which I'm putting all that back, and I'll show you what I'm putting it in a little while, which is this little sampler and a, what's it called, a mattress cushion pillow, pin pillow. So the sampler is A. Robson, 1897, and the pillow says Great British Sampler Weekend. And then on the ends of it says Swindon, September 29th, 2023. And then there's another side that you can put your name. So I started stitching it. We were able to choose the kind of linen. This is, that is the count of linen, or Aida. This is 36 count linen dyed by Tabby Cat in the color Wood Smoke. And I think it may be a color that she created for this event. So there's the top of the pillow, and here's one of the ends. And there's enough linen in our project to let us stitch either the sampler, no, to stitch both the sampler and the pillow with planning, and I've planned it out, so I'll be able to do both. We were also provided with soie d'argent thread and these little Saju thread winder things, which I looked into. You can actually get them, but I think these were provided by Hobby House Needleworks. So I wound my thread around them because, as you know, I like to bobbinate my thread, and those are fun. In red and green, two particular colors, and that's why the pins are red and green, so they'll go with the pillow. And some people started on the pillow and some people started on the sampler. I think Leslie started on the sampler. I hope to do both. In fact, I went ahead and ordered more of the silk thread in these colors because I wanted to be able to just power through the pillow, which I made the joke that I was going to finish before the end of the weekend, which of course I didn't. And move on to the sampler. So that is something that's in the future plans. Let me set this down. I'm trying to keep, let me say that I have more stuff than usual to show. So the table is a little small, shall I say. So another feature of cross-stitch retreats is the exchange of little gifts that people bring for their table mates. It's not at all a requirement. I mean, you don't have to go with a gift, but most of the people at my table did. I took little zipper pulls that I had made, probably imperfectly, but there were a lot of things like that. And I can't show you that yet. Why, Emily, why not? So Teresa gave each person a little pin cushion that she'd made on top of a jar of raspberry jam and a postcard from her area and a skein of her favorite color of DMC, which is 814, which is an excellent color, Teresa. Sam gave some fabric and some little wooden doodads, buttons, and things. Leslie gave something very pertinent to her area, which is the barn quilts. There's a picture of barn quilts, which is a big deal in Western New York. And there's the webpage, leroybarnquilt.org, and some thread drops. I don't tend to use thread drops, and then a little tape measure and scissors that go together, which are very pretty. 60-inch tape measures. Carol number 2 gave these little scissors, which have this sheath, and these are fantastic. In fact, I put away the scissors that I had brought and used these for the rest of the weekend because they're extremely sharp pointed. They're very sharp. The fact that they have a sheath is handy, and they're yellow, so it was hard to lose them. That was really good. Here, a Christmas ornament. Cute. I think there were some other things. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting your gift, if any of you are watching. Oh, Roxy. Darn it, what did I do with that? Well, it's out of my reach. Roxy had made those bowl cozies that you, put your soup bowl in if you are... Now, in a moment, we're going to hear some noise because my husband is coming back from the grocery store, so hopefully he will be quiet as he enters. And you can do that, just don't make a lot of clatter. Anyway, bowl cozy, you put your soup bowl in if you have it in the microwave. So that's very useful, and it's finally getting to be soup weather here in North Carolina. There were other things that were given. A lady named Eveline gave this little thread bling, and this is stitched in there. It's a little bird that's stitched and then enclosed in this drop. I don't know what these things are called. That is so nice. Bettina, I can't think of her last name. I think I know it. She gave these little thread drops, which are her Eliza Stringer, age 6, that she made into thread drops. And so Bettina has a certain role in this conversation in a minute. Now, of course, there were things to buy. Oh, darn it. Maybe I'll get my husband to reach something that is out of my reach. Can you reach those things and hand them to me? That pile? No, the next pile. Those zipper cases. That right there. One of the things, thank you, that there was, which I told you in advance there was going to be, and I was planning to avail myself of, was linen, dyed by Tabby Cat Linens. And Michelle lives in France. I don't know how she did it, but she must have brought over about a cargo ship full of linen, because I have never even imagined as much cross-stitch linen as there was there. And she said it was the largest amount of linen that had ever been, Tabby Cat linen that had ever been in one place at one time. I think she made a lot of sales, so I hope that was a good effort on her behalf. So I did buy linen because that's what one of my goals was, to buy linen. So I bought a yard of 40 count. This is the color pamplemousse, which means grapefruit. So it's a little pinkish, a little brownish, really pretty color. 40 count, I don't know. I'm not going to try to make you understand the colors of these because I know it's notoriously hard on videos. And this is 36 count just the ticket, which is a wonderful color. It's the color of my 20 count Aida that I'm doing Mathilde on. So I got 2 full yards. So putting things away is going to be a challenge. I got some fat quarters. This is called Windsor Castle. Isn't that a beautiful gray color? I don't know. It is a beautiful, I'm telling you, it's a beautiful gray color. That's a fat quarter. I think this is 32 count. I think. It isn't labeled because it was cut from a piece. Here's 46 count cockle shell. This is really similar to pamplemousse. A beautiful, sort of warm, I don't know, warm may not be the term. It's a nice brown color, light brown. Really like that. And another thing Michelle had done was to prepare little packets of, she called them ornament packs or small sampler packs, because if you have a big piece, you hesitate to cut into it to make something small. So I picked up a fat 1/8 pack of 40 count, 4 different shades. They're not labeled, I don't think, but I'm gonna guess that this one is Windsor Castle and this is just the ticket, and I don't know about the others. Beautiful. And I picked out a fat 16th pack of 36 count in various colors. Again, just beautiful selection. And the nice thing is it gives me a lot of different colors to think about in small pieces, and I am inspired to do more smalls. I'm sorry those crinkle. I think that's irritating to some people. I'm sorry. That's just, they do crinkle. And we had so many amazing presenters. Now, I do have something here that lists them, if you're interested. Dawn Cook Ronigan, Rebecca Scott of Whitney Antiques, Jane Greenoff, which I'll show some things of later. A special speaker who was not, we weren't told in advance who it was, but it was described as, this talk is focused on something very British and is not needlework related. And it was Tom Stubbs, who was a sailor in the Royal, or a member of the Royal Navy. I don't know what rank he achieved. And he was the official photographer, part of his duties in his career, as the official photographer for the royal family on the royal yacht, the Britannia. So he had stories to tell about that, which was fascinating. And he's an excellent speaker. Cissy Bailey Smith, about Scottish samplers, fascinating. It makes me want to stitch all the Scottish samplers. And Claudia Kistler, about how to find the history of things. Very interesting. There was the woman who drew, I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. Maybe I've already, anyway, just, I can't tell you enough about how great it was. The fascinating topics that were covered by the speakers. And many of them gave us projects. This was from Claudia. It's a little Bristol sampler, a PDF, which we can stitch. It's a small. It's not as large as most of the Bristol samplers. And some other projects that I'll probably get to when I open that bag in a moment. And then the next day, Saturday morning when we arrived, we were told to leave our tables clear because they needed to leave something for us. And they left this. Isn't this nice? This was the 10-inch by 10-inch by 7-inch item that we were supposed to save room in our luggage. And so it's this set of drawers, and each drawer was lined with, let's see if I can do this. Well, it was lined with paper. It says a Great British Sampler Weekend. I'll talk about the things that are there in that drawer in a moment. And then on the back of it is stenciled Great British Sampler Weekend 2023. I just think this is great. Now, when I first saw it, I was dismayed. Because when they said to leave 10-inch by 10-inch by 7-inch, I thought, well, that's an exaggeration. But it is not an exaggeration. This is that. And because it's made of wood, it doesn't crush. But that's actually good, because that meant that I could put it in my luggage and it wouldn't be damaged. So each drawer is lined with that. I put things in it, gifts that people left at the table. I put in the drawers, and it's really fun. I think it will be fun to have here where I stitch, which is normally on the dining room table. I can then put things away and, pick this whole thing up and take it somewhere else. when it's time to actually eat at the table. Also a scissors block, which has excerpts from Harriet Salt, which I've mentioned to you before, something I want to stitch. And the tiny little scissors, so cute, from Hobby House Needleworks, and they're excellent. I've been using them this week. Yeah. And I'm trying to keep these things organized so that I won't lose them. Also, in our original kit was this little vial, which has a nice tag on it. It has a raffle number. Mine was number 7. And also in it were needles, which I put in that little sliding metal thing that I used, which were the type of needles that we could use for the project. So what else? Let's see. I'll cover that last. So we bought some things. Surprise. I'm not going to show you everything. That's true. But this I'm going to show you because I think I'm going to start it. This is a pattern which comes with some thread and a chart, charts. And it's to make a little booklet that, here's my math. Let's see if there's a picture of it. There's a lot of pictures, but I'm not sure that there's a picture of the booklet. Well, anyway, it's a booklet. There was a sample there, which has covers and pages on the inside that are set up in such a way that they are self-lining. So when you stitch it and then you fold the pages, they hide each other's back. So, and then it's this little booklet. Well, it's whatever size, but I'm making it on 32 count. In fact, this is another piece of fabric I bought, 32 count. The Cat's Whiskers by Tabby Cat. This is a pale gray, slightly bluish color, which I think will be fine. But the point of this pattern is that there are examples of many different kinds of English samplers that are historic. So there's the Bristol sampler idea. There's the here's the Quaker sampler idea. There's the map sampler, which were done, spot samplers, the house samplers, and a darning sampler. And there are, I think there might be 10 different samplers of various sorts in here. And so you stitch these pages and you put them in the book, and so it gives all the instructions of how to do the different specialty stitches and how to make the book. And then there's also this gold thread. I mean, you cannot see that. Take my word for it. There's gold thread, a needle, some silk, hand-dyed silk thread for the darning sampler and so forth. So I bought this fabric thinking I would make this, and I've started to do the math on how it all was going to fit, because you can make it all in a fat quarter of, I think, up to 28 count. So this is 32 count, so I shouldn't have any trouble. So I've begun to think about that. I think I'll do it, I don't know, I might do it, I might get some silk for it. I don't know. Maybe. All right. If there's a crash, it's because things are falling, because I have too many things here. So at our table also was a tote bag, for a British Sampler weekend, which is fantastic. So that was Jane Greenough, and this is also her. I bought this book, which is samplers and that are reminiscent of certain kinds of English samplers, sort of related to that little project, actually. And I can't show you almost anything in this book because most of it's charts, but there's a little, one of these puzzle boxes, you know, stitching puzzle box. Let's see if I think there is a picture of that. This right here. And it gives the charts for stitching it and how to actually construct it. Fascinating. I think I would like to do that. Anyway, it's a really interesting book, and even if all I did was browse the book, I think it would be very interesting and worthwhile. In this zipper pouch are some of the projects that we were given by different people. So Leslie and I are going to do this one in January. We're going to have a stitch along in January. This is called a Bristol Sampling by Violets and Verses. And this person, Jennifer, spoke to us. And it's a band, which we received the band as well as the chart and a DMC skein of 815. So there's that. It's a Aida, maybe 16 count, I'm gonna say. So that will be fun to do. I even have a spool that it might go on. Leslie took excellent notes. So Sissy gave us this, which is some elements of a Scottish samplers, and self-lined needle book. So it's the chart to do these different parts of it and how to make it so that you don't have to line it. You just fold it and stitch it together in a certain way, and it's fine by itself. This little project, a little house, Scottish pin keep. Now this was quite amazing. This speaker was talking about samplers, Red Barn samplers. This is part of a sampler by Sarah Sophia Railton, 1796, and the chart and a fat quarter of fabric suitable to do it on that will make it match that. So that's quite a generous gift from that presenter. This is fascinating. This is a little, I think, Irish. I'm not sure. Anyway, fascinating. Little green sampler, Darlington School. This is the kit to make a beautiful embroidered bookmark. And it includes threads and beads and this design that you make your embroidery go around. I think it's felt. I haven't actually taken that out. So that's amazing. But then there was a grab bag, or not a grab bag. The raffle at the end was for things. And there were 7 winners who won special stuff, but I didn't, which was fine because I won amazing stuff. Mill on the Floss samplers. I'm not going to show these in detail. Sarah, this is a Hands Across the Sea sampler. Interesting carnations in there. This is, I think, pretty funny. This is Anne Ogden, what year? 1843. Here she is, I assume, sitting with her cat on her lap. I just think that's pretty cute. This one is gorgeous. Sarah Borton, 1815. Now this whole section here in the center is embroidered, not kind of cross stitch. And there are extensive photographs and instructions on how to do it and exactly where to lay your threads and how to do it in order to achieve that. I mean, this is an example of the instructions. There it is. Every part is numbered, and then it goes, you can look in the list and see what color to use. And you know, if I live long enough. I might like to try that because it is amazing. I think there is possibly a chart in here of a practice piece that you can do. Now, something, by the way, that I really like about Hands Across the Sea samplers is that on most of the pages, they include the thread legend. I'll just quickly show that. So you don't have to keep flipping back and forth. This is a French sampler that Mill on the Floss. No, Tabby Cat. Well, Tabby Cat is Mill on the Floss, but that's kind of cool. This is CD Day. Isn't that pretty? That's French. This was actually in Leslie's bag, and she said I could have it, but I should give it back to her when I finished it, so I remember. This was given to us by a presenter, maybe, I think. No, this, yeah, by CD Day. It's not only the full sampler, but little pieces that you can make from it. And I love the colors. The blue is really pretty. And then Rebecca, whose name last name I'm not drawing to mind, in each of the bags was one of their catalogs from one of their exhibitions at the Whitney Antiques, which we visited. And I'll put some pictures up, but this is pictures of samplers. It happens to be quite a variety of different types of samplers, so it shows the kinds of things that Whitney Antiques sells. Whitney Antiques is the place to get samplers. And then finally, I want to talk for a moment about three other things that, no, finally as related to the Great British Sampler Weekend part. So there was a smalls exchange, which Nicola said while this was going on, while it was happening. Has anybody realized that in England, smalls are underwear? So it's very funny to think of having a smalls exchange, which makes me chuckle every time I think of it. But the person who got my small is Bettina, who lives in Germany, and she was very thankful to have it, and I thought that was just lovely. And then Sherry Clemens was the small I got, and this is a little sewing roll, which she amazingly managed to get Great British Sampler Weekend logo onto it. Maybe that's Mod Podge. I'm not really sure what that is, but it has a little scissors in it, and this little scissor fob that says TGBSW, the Great British Sampler Weekend. A lot of red, white, and blue beads, little beads with red, white, and blue pins with red, white, and blue beads, some needles in this felt thing, pockets in this to put what you need to carry with you, a little box, again with the Great British Sampler Weekend logo on it, just a little box. I don't think there's anything in it at this moment. I'm all thumbs and can't get it open, but such a nice thing. I was so pleased to receive that. These cute little scissors, they were tied in here beautifully, and of course I took them out and can't get them back in properly, but I'll work on that. So that's the smalls exchange. And then I bought, in addition to the other things I've showed you, I bought a scissor fob that has dragonflies, which represent hope, I think. And this little deal is excerpt from Harriet Salt. And here is a needle minder excerpt from Harriet Salt. Both of these made by Minnie McBean, by Sue, who was there. And of course, there was many things there. I managed to resist buying more of it. Which really, and the Harriet Salt model was there. And having been at the Bristol Museum, I've showed you this before. I've showed it to you right side up in the past. So today I thought I'd be different, show it upside down. I am going to stitch this. It will take years, I think, but I'm going to. Harriet Salt. Amazing. So Roxy and her husband, Lee, had rented a car. They had been traveling around England before the weekend, and they were so kind. We fell in with them at a meal, maybe the first meal that we were at the hotel in Swindon, and very nice people from California. They also lived in the Midwest. At various times they were, he was an agricultural person, and they had dairy farms and things like that. So it was really very interesting to meet them. And they drove us, they allowed us to go with them to Whitney Antiques. It was a great drive. We enjoyed them, and Whitney Antiques is amazing, just amazing. My mind is blown by the number of antique samplers that were on display, and that was just a small portion of what there were, what that antique shop owns. Just spectacular. I took a couple pictures, asked permission to take pictures, and I'll stick some pictures in at some point, maybe at the end, because this is already getting crazy long. We went on the Monday to the George Mueller Museum. It was quite impressive. So the George Mueller Museum is in one of the buildings that was one of the orphanages. Those buildings are still there. I think they're now apartments. And I learned things about that, about the orphanage, that I had not known. And one of the big things was that George Mueller started the orphanage with his first aim was to demonstrate that God answers prayers and meets our needs. And his second aim was to help children who were orphans. So, I mean, my mind was, it was just a very impressive thing to learn, how he went about that, what the lives of the children were like, how much care and attention was given to them. They had more than 1,000 children at a time under their care. Overall, the orphan program, which lasted beyond his death, helped more than 17,000 children, more than 10,000 children during his lifetime. Just astonishing. And the children, the girls, stitched samplers. And they were not large. So when I do this, so this is 414 stitches square. And when I stitch it, I'm going to stitch it on, the smallest I would consider would be 40 count, I think. And if I do it on 40 count, it's going to be 20.5 inches square. This sampler, the original of this sampler, was about this big, was about 7 inches. It was stitched on maybe 100 count or something. How did these girls, how did they do it? I mean, I feel like for me to stitch on 40 count, this large a piece, over the time it's going to take me to do it, is going to be quite a feat. I'm even thinking maybe I should do it on 36 count just to make sure that I can actually see it. I mean, I cannot imagine. I can't even hardly see 56 count, which there were some examples of fabric that I looked at and said, not for me. I just can't imagine it. But I do want to stitch that, thinking of the Mueller Museum and the Mueller, the Bristol Orphanage, whole endeavor that George Mueller had. Okay, the Cotswolds. We got an Uber to go from Bristol to Stow-on-the-Wold, which I believe I fell asleep during some of the scenic parts of that drive because jet lag was real. It was quite amazing how tired we were and how out of sync with sleeping and waking we were. We had separate rooms for the retreat, which I'm glad we did because it meant that Leslie and I had separate rooms. It meant that when we were awake in the middle of the night, we could read, turn on the light or do whatever and not worry about disturbing the other person who was going to wake up an hour from now instead. So it really, I think that was a good idea. But starting at Stowe on the Wold, we shared a room. It was great. We stayed at the Stowe on the Wold Lodge, which was a very charming, beautiful place. Stowe on the Wold is a very nice little village with some old buildings, and we walked around a little bit in the town square and visited the church right next door, St. Paul's, I think, or St. John's, St. somebody's church, which has a door that is encased or covered up by yew trees, which is kind of thought to be one of the inspirations for Tolkien's imagery. We had a tour guide the next day, Ian Williams, that we found through Tours by Locals, and he took us to 5 or 6 different villages that we had mentioned an interest in. He had suggested some things. Very, very interesting, beautiful places. We went to Broadway Tower, which I thought I had a brochure, but apparently it's not in reach. That's all right. Which he said was a wedding present from a man to his Welsh wife who didn't want to leave Wales. And he said, I'll build you a castle that you can see Wales from. And you can see Wales. And we had a beautiful clear day, so we could see Wales. We could also see Birmingham, which was 60 miles away, I think. It was quite a beautiful day for sightseeing. The next day, we had a different guide named Peter Shelley, and he has his own website. And we had asked him to take us different places, which he did, sort of more central Cotswolds, I think. And he took us to some places that you normally can't get to as a tourist because the coaches can't get into them. The roads are smaller. And charming, beautiful places. Both days we saw some thatch roofs, and we learned a lot about the stone of the Cotswolds and the way the roofs are made, are covered with stone, and visited some churches. The last sightseeing we did on the second day was at a little church called Ampney St. Mary, which used to be in a village, as the churches are, but the village moved a mile away in some year 1600 or something because of the plague decimated the population, so they moved the village, but the church was still there. And that church, as well as all the churches we saw, which are all small, all the ones we visited were pretty small, this one was quite small, had fresh flowers in it, and it was clearly an active church. There were services there every week. And this particular church it dated from the 1200s, I think. There were wall paintings that dated from the 1400s, which are among the oldest wall paintings in the world. And just a fascinating, beautiful little church. All the churches we saw were interesting. We went to the village where Father Brown Mysteries are mostly filmed, visited that church. So I'm told by Leslie I must watch that. So Byron and I will put that on our list. Yeah, it was beautiful. Such a beautiful part of the country. Then Peter drove us into London. We stayed at the Rembrandt Hotel. That night, we met Mark Goodliff from Cracking the Cryptic, who lives in London. And he was so kind as to meet us for a drink, and we had a very fun conversation. I just so enjoyed meeting him. He's just as charming and pleasant and interesting a person in person as I imagined that he would be. And I'm so grateful that he took the time to meet with us. And let me just say, the Rembrandt has excellent gin and tonics. Leslie and I had one almost every day, if not every day. I don't think we had more than one a day. So it was and then we did London. We did the Victoria and Albert Museum on Thursday, and went to the Liberty of London, which is a high-end clothing and household goods, and it's quite known in the quilting world for fabric, which there was fabric there, but I just could not bring myself to pay what it would cost to buy that fabric, especially because the smallest cut they would give was half a meter, so 19 or 20 inches. I just, in order to get enough fabric to make something, even a small thing that would have, say, 3 or 4 different fabrics in it, it would have been $150. And I just didn't think I could justify that. Not $150, maybe $120. And, but it was very interesting to be there and to see that little shop, big shop. It was multi-floors, 5 levels, I think. The next day we went to the British Museum, where I picked up a souvenir that I'll tell you about at the end, maybe. And we went to Harrods, and we did the hop-on, hop-off bus the first day, but it just didn't work out. We had bought the 2-day ticket, but it was too slow. There was a lot of traffic. It wasn't going on its main routes. It was going on side streets, so it wasn't seeing the things, wasn't taking us by the things that we had thought we would see. And it just wasn't as satisfying as when Judy and I did it in 2009. So we didn't do it the second day. That was, I'll say, the only money we wasted was on the hop-on, hop-off bus ticket. So we did Uber and taxi other places, and our hotel was very nice. There were some funny stories connected with the balcony door. We couldn't figure out how to lock, and 2 different people came to help us with it, and of course it was user error. The shower, and all, every place you go, the shower is not like home. Even Leslie here had trouble getting the shower to come on. And yeah, it was a comedy in some ways. At one point she said, I couldn't figure out how to get the shower off. I thought we were going to have to call the desk. Oh dear, that was funny. We laughed a lot, as one does. Leslie has a wonderful sense of humor. She has a dry wit, and yeah, it was fun to be with her. Yeah, so I've talked on and on. So my clock on this video says 59 minutes, and it's less than that, I think, because I am going to probably cut something out that I talked about earlier that I am going to cut out. Hopefully I can edit that cleanly. And I'll stick some more pictures in here if I haven't had a chance to stick them in up to this point. Thanks so much for watching this long video. I hope you've managed to hold on to the end. We did have a wonderful time, and I'm so thankful for that. And it even makes it worthwhile. I mean, even looking back and preparing to do this video has reminded me of what a great trip it was in all. Even though I think that one souvenir that we got from the British Museum, which was extremely crowded, that I got from the British Museum, very crowded, was COVID. But I'm on the mend, clearly, much better today than I have been this week. And, that's okay. It's, thankfully, I'm not dreadfully ill, and I'm feeling pretty good today, good energy. Even yesterday I felt good. So, anyway, that's just what it is to travel, I guess, these days. But I hope that you all have had a good 3 weeks. I hope that you'll have a good week coming up. I do plan to make a video next week as back to normal length, back to normal variety show kinds of topics. And I hope you have a great stitching weekend and other activities, beautiful fall weather. The light is slanting through the woods here, and just the way I most love it. October is a beautiful month. Thanks so much for joining me, and many blessings, friends.